Hey everybody, how's it going? This is hopefully a quickish video on models and their position on their base for when you make them. This applies both to resin bases that you buy as well as bases you may make up on your own. Basing is a big part of the hobby, especially the part when you build and paint the models. They really tie the model together. I'm not going to go over the basics here. I did that in another video or so, or two, in the past. I may do it again. But what I'm talking about is where you're going to place your model on the base. Now, it's not any secret how to place your model on a base. What it comes down to is what you like. If you feel like the model off-center, place it off-center. Or if you like it more towards the front, place it towards the front. I personally like my models centered on the base, just because I just like the way that looks. So how do you do that when you make your bases? Well, one thing to think about firstly is when you're making your bases, modeling flock doesn't really matter, and small things like this like plastic card pieces, if they're of this type of like a thin thickness, they're not too thick, they don't really matter where you place them either on the base. What matters on a base are the big things, like these rocks pieces. When you look at it on an angle, they kind of jut up, and things like this sprue, or if you use bits, pieces of bit, or pieces of bits, so on and so forth. The things that would get in the way of a model's footprint, essentially. So when you glue it down, you wouldn't be able to set their feet down properly there. Now, you can have a model have their feet on top of something else instead of flat ground. That's fine. It looks good. I only do it in certain situations, or I haven't really done it, to be honest, but I would only do it in certain situations. I just never bothered to try, but I like to make big. I like the big pieces, so it looks like it's firmly planted on something. I wouldn't personally like to put a foot on here. It just doesn't seem, or on here, it just doesn't seem visually appealing for me. But again, it's all personal preference. So what we have here are two bases and two Terminator models right here. I'm working on them for the second squad of Deathwing with the Thunder Hammers and Storm Shields and the Heavy Flamer in it. I forgot to make the bases. I thought I had more bases made already. I only had one extra, so I have to make 3 more because I do have that one guy already made. So that's why these bases aren't done yet. But we have 2 different legs here on the Terminators. We got a wide stance and a walking stance. So obviously both of these legs will have problems on certain type of bases. Now, the walking leg, the leg that can be as moving, will have a little bit more trouble than the wide stance leg on bases. What we have here are 2 different bases. We have one with like an island of stuff in the middle and one with stuff on the sides. The walking base can't really fit the way I would like it on this type of base. And that's important. You don't want to make too many of these type of bases if you don't have that many of these type of legs you're using in that particular batch of painting you're doing. However, the walking model fits very nicely there, and he's pretty centered. And obviously, this isn't the final posing, but he fits very well on there. The walking leg, the non-walking leg, the wide leg, can fit on this space well enough, and that's good just in case you make a bunch of these type of bases and only a couple of these and have a decent amount of those legs. So it's good that he can still fit on this base, but he can fit just as well on this base. So point is, when you're making bases, it's a good idea to have at least the legs clipped out to know what legs you're going to use, or if you're going to use 2 different styles of legs and that's it, one of each style, But don't make too many of these bases if you have a lot of legs that are close together. With legs that are spread apart, bases like this are fine. Just don't get too crazy and make it too much around the perimeter, because you may not be able to fit in. This leg might be able to, but that's important to figure out. With resin bases, it's similar, and the only difference is you're not making the base; they come pre-made already. And most resin most resin packages come with different styles of the same type of base. Meaning, if it's urban rubble, there'll be like 5 or so different bases that look different. That's what I'm trying to say. Some of them may fit both legs fine. Most of them probably will, but there will probably be a few styles that may benefit the running leg pose or the wide leg pose. It all depends on where the flat surfaces are that they delegate, if that's even the right word, it doesn't even matter, for the feet. Usually what basing companies do is they leave some flat spaces, or they model it and cast the base in such a way that there'll be flat spaces naturally for feet to lay on. Now, for the most part, it can fit a variety of feet poses, because it's not just for one type of game. It may be heavily influenced by one type of game, but it can be used by a variety of different games. So what they do is they make it so most legs can fit on it. Now, not every leg will, and that's why you have a variety. So chances are that if this running leg won't fit on the base, this wide one will, and this running leg will fit on a different type of base. So that's pretty much it. One other thing I want to touch on also is positioning the model. Like, do you want it with the stuff behind them or the stuff in front of them? And really, that depends on you, what you want for that model. Sometimes it's nice to see like he's about to step over an obstacle or something in his way, and other times it's like you already stepped over, it's coming at you. Personally, and what I like to do sometimes is, if he's assaulting you, like an assault squad, like this one is, he's gonna Thunderhammer Storm Shield, I like to have them as if they already stepped over this little impediment and are now coming after you. I mean, it's not much of an impediment, but it's, you know, they stepped over something to get to you. And if it's a shooting type of squad, I like it kind of to represent that they not so much utilizing it as cover, because obviously that's not much cover, but just they're shooting from behind something, a little bit of an impediment for you. Though it doesn't really matter, and with Space Marines and Terminator armor, it doesn't really matter either which way you do it. It really comes down to personal preference, which way you think looks cool. Sometimes you can even have it to the side, depending how you. This one is a little bit too far over, so I wouldn't do it like this. But if you have it a little bit on the edges, you can slide them over a little bit and have them in the middle, and have them on both front and back, a little bit on the side. But again, it's all personal preference. The positioning doesn't really matter to me in regards to whether the stuff you have on the base is in front of him or in back of him, but more to me it matters how center can I get the model. Now, the bases aren't finished. I'm going to probably glue a plastic card piece here, which doesn't really matter because it's thin enough, it won't interrupt his position or how he's glued onto the base. And then I'm going to flock these. The flock doesn't get in the way either, which is why I don't have them flocked yet. One other thing you can do is you can add bits to it after you flock it. I like to add bits to it before I flock it, because it looks like it's kind of been there a little bit and whatnot, more a part of it. But if you want something like, something to look like an exploding debris, or something that is fresh that fell on top of the battlefield or something like that, flock it first, then glue it down on top of it. Maybe add a little bit of flocking afterwards, so it's kind of dug in a little bit, or depending on what you want. But I like to do it before I flock the base. So that's pretty much it. Hope you've enjoyed, and take it easy.